What happens when your teenager is destroying your family and you still can't save him? Your teenager is angry, combative, hostile, impossible to live with. The child you once carried on your hip is now a storm that rages through your home. This is every parent's nightmare. Lying, stealing, cheating, drinking, addiction. It's not just their behavior, but it's also the realization that they're destroying your family. It's the realization that your love, your authority, your fear can no longer control them. What happens when being a good parent is no longer enough to stop your out of control child? When your teenager is out of control, your instinct is to try to control more. Parents initially treat each situation as a separate incident. Disrespect means taking away their phone. Breaking curfew, you lose the car. Bad grades means you're grounded. Vapes means you get drug tested. Sneaking out means cameras, tracking devices, and more monitoring. We cry, we beg, we lecture, we appeal to guilt, logic, surveillance, something will get through. When a teenager is sealed off, every attempt to save them can feel like more control. To an angry teenager, you are not just an afraid parent. You are their enemy. You may be acting from fear and desperation, but your teenager sees you as the obstacle between them and what they want. This is why emotional appeals only escalate the situation. The more afraid the parent becomes, the more controlling he becomes. The teenager resists more. The parents try more. The entire thing becomes an escalation that's all organized around conflict. You're trying to save your child, but your child feels they are trying to escape you. One child's crisis can swallow an entire family. The crisis begins consuming every emotional and practical resource in the house. Maybe violence, screaming, police involvement, running away, holes in walls, and shattered trust. Parents stop sleeping. Work becomes impossible. Marriages begin to crumble under all of that pressure. One child is unraveling, but the entire family is disappearing around him. When you can't control your child, you put yourself on trial. Other children feel neglected. Maybe your physical health is affected. All of this chronic stress and anxiety and fear, and nothing's working. The entire family becomes hostage to this teenager's emotional state. Once the usual parenting techniques fail, self-blame begins to take over. Everyone has an explanation for what you did wrong. You were too permissive. You were too strict. You were too controlling. You were distracted. You were too involved. You are not emotionally available enough. The unbearable part is that you agree with them all. You search your entire parenting history for the exact moment where you went wrong. You do not simply watch your child suffer. You prosecute yourself for causing it. At some point, the question is no longer, how do I control this? It becomes, how do I survive this without losing myself too? When your nervous system is collapsing, trying harder is not the complete answer. You may not be sleeping, eating, working, laughing. You may be barely functioning at all. Your marriage, your relationships, all deteriorating. Your entire identity may have just narrowed into just trying to control your teenager's behavior. At some point, protecting your own sanity is not selfish. It becomes a necessity, not only for yourself, but for the rest of your family. There comes a moment when saving yourself is not separate from loving your child. You cannot suffer enough to save another human being, even if that human being is your child. Detachment becomes necessary when you've reached the limits of your control. You cannot monitor somebody into maturity. You cannot threaten someone into insight. Can't beg them into sobriety. Even with every possible form of help in place, you cannot do your child's inner work for him. You cannot suffer enough to complete someone else's healing for them. Many parents are destroying themselves trying to become God. Parents are responsible for protecting, guiding, helping their children, but responsibility is not omnipotence. You can't prevent every disaster. You can't remove every consequence. You cannot control the condition of another human being's soul. Believing that you should be able to save your child turns every setback into proof of your failure. That's when you begin sacrificing yourself. You're not God, and destroying yourself will not make you powerful enough to become one. Detachment is not abandoning your child. It's refusing to abandon yourself too. Detachment does not mean that you stop loving, caring, helping, or setting boundaries. It doesn't mean that you ignore genuine danger or you refuse appropriate intervention. It means you stop making your own destruction the price of loving your child. Detachment means you begin attending to your own health, your own physical, mental, and emotional and spiritual health. You sleep. You eat, you laugh, you become present with your other children, you repair your marriage, you return to the rest of your life that needs your attention. You may be willing to give your life for your child, but your own burden is to actually live your life. Sometimes your desperate need to save your teenager prevents him from saving himself. Constant rescuing can keep the entire family focused on the parent's reaction rather on the teenager's choices. When that desperate energy of control is released, your teenager may finally have the space to encounter his own consequences. That doesn't guarantee redemption. They may not move towards healing. They may move somewhere darker, but the path still belongs to them. A parent can offer love, support, treatment, boundaries, and truth, but they cannot control the outcome and they can't pretend to. Parents are taught that being a good parent means preventing disaster at all costs. But once a family has entered a true crisis, the fantasy that one parent can single-handedly rescue everyone becomes destructive. The illusion of total responsibility will consume your life. Surrendering that illusion is not weakness. It's an acceptance of reality. From that place, you can make decisions with clarity, from a place of certainty, rather than reacting to every possible fear or outcome. From that place, you can establish boundaries without rage, without anger. Parents in crisis often ask, what did I do wrong? How do I fix this? How do I force this to stop? But sometimes there is nothing left to do. Detachment begins when you finally allow yourself to ask that question that feels forbidden. What is best for me? And that question is not evidence that you have stopped loving your child. It's evidence that you remembered you're a human being too. Detachment parenting is not abandoning your children. It's refusing to abandon yourself along with them. You can love your child completely and still accept that their soul is not yours to control. There's no formula, there's no guarantee, nobody knows what the future will hold, but I do know that all we have is right now, and whether our children, our teenagers are in a crisis or not, we still have the duty, the obligation to live our own lives.